In a distant part of the galaxy, humanity lived under the shadow of the powerful Silothian Empire. For centuries, humans had been treated as second-class citizens, their planet stripped of resources, and their people forced to follow strict laws set by the Empire. But everything changed one day when Ryan Carter, a young mechanic from Earth's moon colony, stumbled upon something that would alter the course of history. Ryan was no hero. He was just an ordinary guy trying to make ends meet. His days were spent fixing starships at a small repair shop on the edge of the lunar settlement. Life was hard, but it was simple. He worked long hours, sent money home to his younger sister, Lily, and tried to stay out of trouble. That all changed when he received a strange job request late one evening. A group of miners had uncovered something unusual deep beneath the moon's surface. They didn't know what it was, but they needed someone with technical skills to check it out. Curious and short on credits, Ryan agreed to help. When he arrived at the site, he found himself staring at an object unlike anything he'd ever seen. It was sleek, metallic, and covered in strange symbols that glowed faintly in the dim light. The miners said it looked like some kind of weapon, but Ryan wasn't so sure. As he examined the artifact, Ryan felt a strange pull, almost as if the object was alive. Touching it sent a jolt through his body, and for a brief moment, images flashed in his mind. Explosions, battles, and stars collapsing into darkness. Startled, he pulled his hand away, but the damage was already done. Whatever this thing was, it had awakened. Word of the discovery spread quickly. Within hours, Silothian patrols descended on the mining site, demanding answers. The miners panicked, scattering into the tunnels, but Ryan knew there was no escape. Desperate, he grabbed the artifact and ran, dodging laser fire as alarms blared around him. He didn't know why he took it, or what he planned to do with it. He just knew he couldn't let the Silothians have it. Luck was on his side when Megan, a smuggler who owed him a favor, showed up unexpectedly. She had come to pick up parts for her ship, but instead found Ryan sprinting toward her with Imperial guards hot on his heels. Without hesitation, she shouted for him to jump aboard her freighter, the Silver Whist Asterisk. Together, they blasted off the moon, narrowly avoiding capture. As they fled into the void of space, Ryan clutched the artifact tightly, unsure of what lay ahead. He had heard stories about the Silothian Empire's cruelty, how they crushed rebellions without mercy and erased entire civilizations that dared to oppose them. Now, because of this mysterious object, he was a target. Megan warned him that running wouldn't be enough. Sooner or later, the Empire would find them. And when they did, Ryan would need more than luck to survive. For now, though, all they could do was keep moving. Ryan stared out the viewport at the endless expanse of stars, wondering how his quiet life had turned upside down so suddenly. Little did he know, the artifact in his hands held secrets that would shake not only the Silothian Empire, but the entire galaxy. And Ryan Carter, the reluctant mechanic from the moon, was about to become the most important and hunted man in the universe. Ryan wasn't sure what to do next. He had always been a simple guy, content with fixing starships and staying out of trouble. But now, sitting in the cramped cockpit of Asterisk, the Silver Whist Asterisk with Megan piloting, he felt completely out of his depth. The artifact rested on the seat beside him, its strange symbols glowing faintly as if it were alive. Ryan kept glancing at it, half expecting it to do something unpredictable. Megan noticed his unease and gave him a sharp look. "You're going to have to figure out what that thing is sooner or later," she said, her voice firm but not unkind. "It's already caused enough trouble. Running won't solve anything." "I'm not trying to solve anything," Ryan shot back, frustration creeping into his tone. "I didn't ask for this. I just want to go home. Forget this ever happened." Megan sighed and leaned back in her chair, her hand steady on the controls. "You can't go home, Ryan. Not anymore. The Silothians are probably crawling all over your shop by now. They'll tear apart everything you've ever known looking for answers. And for you. The thought made Ryan's stomach churn. He had always tried to stay invisible, to avoid drawing attention to himself. Now, because of one bad decision, his life was spiraling out of control. He glanced at Megan, who seemed oddly calm despite their situation. She had spiky black hair, a scar running down her left cheek, and an air of confidence that made Ryan feel even more out of place. "Why are you helping me?" he asked finally. "You don't owe me that much." Megan smirked. "Let's just say I've got my own reasons. Besides, you've got something they want. That makes you interesting." Ryan didn't find that comforting. He stared out the viewport at the endless stars, feeling smaller than ever. For hours they drifted through space, trying to put as much distance between themselves and the moon as possible. Megan suggested heading to a nearby trading hub called Nexus 7, a chaotic station where people went to buy, sell, or disappear. It wasn't exactly safe, but it might give them time to regroup. When they arrived, Nexus 7 lived up to its reputation. The station was a maze of crowded markets, dimly lit corridors, and suspicious characters watching every move. Megan led Ryan through the chaos, keeping a hand on her blaster. They stopped at a dingy bar tucked away in a corner of the station. The place smelled like smoke and stale alcohol, but it was quiet enough for them to talk without being overheard. "What's the plan?" Megan asked, sliding into a booth. "You can't run forever." Ryan shook his head. "I don't know. Maybe we should try to sell it. This thing." He gestured toward the artifact, which he kept hidden under his jacket. "Someone out there has to know what it is." Megan frowned. "Bad idea. If word gets out about this, every bounty hunter and thief in the galaxy will be after us. And trust me, you don't want that kind of attention." Ryan slumped back in his seat, feeling trapped. Just then, a man approached their table. He was tall, with short brown hair and piercing blue eyes. His clothes were practical but worn, suggesting he'd seen his share of battles. Something about him made Ryan tense up instinctively. "Mind if I join you?" the man asked, his voice calm but commanding. Megan's hand twitched toward her blaster, but Ryan nodded hesitantly. The man sat down and introduced himself as Ethan Drake. "I heard you're carrying something unusual," he said, his gaze flicking to the artifact under Ryan's jacket. "Something that could change everything." Ryan exchanged a worried glance with Megan. How did this stranger know? Before Ryan could respond, Ethan leaned closer, lowering his voice. "I used to work for the Xylothians. I know what they're capable of, and I know what that thing is. Or at least I think I do." For the first time since fleeing the moon, Ryan felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe Ethan could help them understand the artifact. And maybe, just maybe, they could use it to fight back against the Empire. But deep down, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that trusting Ethan might be the most dangerous choice yet. Ethan Drake's words hung in the air like smoke, heavy and impossible to ignore. Ryan stared at him, unsure whether to feel relieved or even more terrified. The artifact sat on the table between them, its faint glow casting eerie shadows on their faces. Megan kept one hand close to her blaster, her sharp eyes studying Ethan carefully. "You're saying you know what this thing is?" Ryan asked finally, his voice cautious. "And you used to work for the Xylothians?" Ethan nodded, leaning back slightly as if trying to appear less threatening. "I was a soldier once," he admitted, "but I left when I realized how far they were willing to go to keep control. That thing," he pointed at the artifact, "it's not just some weapon. It's part of something bigger, something ancient." Ryan frowned. "Ancient? What does that mean?" "It means it's old, older than the Xylothian Empire itself," Ethan explained. "This artifact is one piece of a network created by a civilization long gone. They used these devices to manipulate energy, matter, maybe even time. But whatever they built, it didn't end well for them." Megan crossed her arms. "So, what are you telling us? That this thing could destroy planets? Or worse?" Ethan hesitated before answering. "Maybe. But it's also powerful enough to push back against the Empire, if we knew how to use it properly. The room fell silent as Ryan processed this information. He had never asked for any of this. All he wanted was to fix starships and take care of his sister. Now he was sitting in a dirty bar on a dangerous station, holding a relic from an extinct alien race that might hold the key to humanity's freedom or its destruction. Before anyone could say anything else, the door to the bar burst open. A group of rough-looking mercenaries stormed in, scanning the room with predatory eyes. One of them spotted Ryan and shouted, "There he is." Panic surged through Ryan as he grabbed the artifact and slid out of the booth. Megan was already on her feet, her blaster drawn. "We need to move. Now," she barked. Ethan didn't hesitate. He pulled a small device from his pocket and tossed it toward the mercenaries. A bright flash erupted, momentarily blinding everyone in the room. Using the distraction, the three of them bolted out of the bar and into the crowded corridors of Nexus 7. They ran until their lungs burned, weaving through the chaotic marketplace and dodging startled bystanders. Behind them, shouts echoed as the mercenaries recovered and gave chase. Ryan clutched the artifact tightly, his heart pounding in his chest. Every step felt heavier than the last, but he couldn't stop. If they caught him, it wouldn't just be the end of his life. It would be the end of hope for humanity. Finally, they reached a maintenance hatch hidden behind a stack of crates. Megan pried it open, and they slipped inside, sealing the door behind them. The narrow passage smelled of rust and oil, but it offered temporary safety. For a moment, they simply stood there, catching their breath. "We can't stay here," Ethan said, breaking the silence. "Those guys won't give up easily." Ryan looked at him, frustration bubbling to the surface. "Why do people keep coming after me? I didn't ask for this." "No one asks for war," Ethan replied grimly. "But sometimes it finds you anyway." Megan stepped forward, her expression serious. "He's right, whether you like it or not. Ryan, you're in the middle of something much bigger than yourself. And if we don't figure out how to use that artifact soon, humanity won't stand a chance against the Empire." Ryan clenched his jaw, staring at the glowing object in his hands. He didn't feel like a hero. He didn't feel brave or strong. But deep down, he knew one thing. Running wasn't going to save anyone. Not him, not Lily, and certainly not humanity. Somehow, he had to find a way to fight back, even if it meant risking everything. The narrow maintenance passage was cold and damp, the sound of dripping water echoing off the metal walls. Ryan, Megan, and Ethan moved quickly, their footsteps muffled but urgent. Behind them, the shouts of mercenaries grew louder, a reminder that they were running out of time. Ryan's mind raced as he clutched the artifact tighter, its faint glow lighting up the dim corridor. He wasn't sure how much longer he could keep going like this, always one step ahead of danger, never able to catch his breath. Ethan led the way, his knowledge of Nexus 7 proving invaluable. "This way," he whispered, motioning for them to follow. They turned a corner and found themselves in a wider tunnel filled with pipes and cables. The air smelled of grease and machinery, and the hum of distant engines vibrated through the floor. Ethan stopped at a rusted ladder bolted to the wall. "Up there," he said, pointing upward. "It'll take us to the docking bay." Megan climbed first, her movements quick and practiced. Ryan went next, his hands trembling as he gripped the rungs. By the time they reached the top, his arms burned from the effort. The hatch opened into an empty storage room near the edge of the docking bay. From there, they could see rows of ships parked in neat lines, their engines idling as pilots prepared for departure. "We need to get to my ship," Megan said, glancing around cautiously. "But we're going to have to move fast. Those mercenaries will be here any second." As if on cue, the sound of boots pounding against metal echoed behind them. The group froze, exchanging nervous looks. Ethan pulled out another small device from his pocket. "I can buy us some time," he said, tossing it toward the entrance of the storage room. A loud asterisk clang asterisk followed by sparks erupted, creating enough noise to mask their escape. Without waiting, they sprinted toward the nearest row of ships. Megan's freighter, asterisk, the Silver Wisp asterisk, stood out among the sleeker vessels, a patched-up hunk of metal that looked like it had seen better days. But Ryan didn't care about appearances. All he cared about was getting off the station alive. As they approached, Megan tapped a code into the ship's control panel, and the ramp lowered with a soft hiss. "Get inside," she ordered, already climbing into the pilot's seat. Ryan and Ethan hurried aboard, sealing the hatch behind them. Moments later, the engines roared to life, and the ship lifted off the ground, just as the mercenaries burst into the docking bay. Laser fire streaked past the windows as Megan expertly maneuvered the freighter through the chaos. Ryan gripped the back of her chair, watching as the station grew smaller and smaller behind them. For now, they were safe, but Ryan knew it wouldn't last long. Once they were clear of Nexus 7, Megan set a course for a remote asteroid field where they could lay low. She leaned back in her seat, letting out a tired sigh. "We got lucky back there," she said. "But we won't be so lucky next time." Ryan nodded silently, staring at the artifact still cradled in his hands. Every moment since finding it had been a blur of fear and adrenaline. He couldn't help but wonder, why him? Why did fate, or whatever force governed the universe, choose him to carry this burden? Ethan broke the silence. "You've got something powerful in your hands, Ryan. Something that could change everything. But power like that comes with risks. If the Tylothians find out what you have, they'll stop at nothing to take it." Ryan swallowed hard. "What do you think they'll do?" "They'll hunt you down," Ethan replied bluntly. "They'll destroy anyone who stands in their way. And when they finally catch you—" He trailed off, leaving the rest unsaid. Megan chimed in, her tone firm. "Which is why we need to figure out how to use that thing before they catch up. We can't keep running forever." Ryan stared at the glowing artifact, its light reflecting in his eyes. He didn't feel brave or strong. He felt scared and out of his depth. But deep down, he knew one thing. Humanity needed hope. And somehow, this object might be their only chance, even if it meant risking everything, including his own life. He had to try. The asteroid field was a maze of jagged rocks and floating debris, the perfect place to hide. Megan guided asterisk, the Silver Wisp asterisk, into a narrow crevice between two large asteroids, cutting the engines as soon as they were safely concealed. The ship drifted silently, blending into the darkness. Outside, the only sounds were the faint hum of distant energy fields and the occasional scrape of rock against metal. Inside the cramped cabin, tension hung thick in the air. Ryan sat at the table, the artifact glowing softly in front of him. He traced its strange symbols with his fingers, trying to make sense of them. Ethan leaned over his shoulder, studying the markings closely. "These symbols, they're not random," he said finally. "They're part of an ancient language. I've seen something like this before." Megan raised an eyebrow. "You've seen it? Where?" Ethan hesitated, his expression darkening. "In old records from my time with the Tylothians. They'd been searching for artifacts like this for years. They believe these devices hold the key to ultimate power." Ryan frowned. "Ultimate power? What does that even mean?" "It means we might be sitting on something capable of reshaping the galaxy," Ethan replied grimly. "But using it comes at a cost. Whoever controls this network could control reality itself, or destroy it." Megan let out a low whistle. "Great. So we got a weapon that's either going to save us or blow up the universe. No pressure." Ryan rubbed his temples, feeling overwhelmed. He had never asked for any of this. All he wanted was to live a quiet life fixing starships and taking care of Lily. Now he was stuck in the middle of a galactic game he didn't understand, carrying a relic that could change everything, or end it. "Okay," Megan said, breaking the silence. "Enough doom and gloom. We need a plan. First step, figure out how this thing works. Second step, Stay alive long enough to use it. Ethan nodded. Agreed. But decoding this isn't going to be easy. We'll need help. Someone who knows more about ancient tech than I do. Ryan looked up sharply. Help? From who? Everyone we meet seems to want to kill us or sell us out. There's one person, Ethan admitted reluctantly. A scientist named Dr. Laura Finch. She used to work for the Xylothians too, but she went rogue after uncovering some of their secrets. If anyone can decode this, it's her. And where exactly is she? Megan asked skeptically. On Zoreth, Ethan replied. It's a desert planet near the edge of human space. Not the safest place. But it's our best shot. Ryan sighed, leaning back in his chair. Every time someone says best shot, it ends with us running for our lives. Well, unless you've got a better idea. Megan trailed off, raising an eyebrow. Ryan shook his head. He didn't have a better idea. None of this made sense, but he couldn't deny that the artifact represented hope. For humanity, for himself, for Lily. If there was even a chance it could help fight back against the Empire, he had to take it. The journey to Zoreth would take several days, giving them time to prepare. Megan spent hours tweaking the ship's systems, making sure they wouldn't break down mid-flight. Ethan pored over the artifact, sketching its symbols and comparing them to notes he had memorized during his time with the Xylothians. Ryan tried to help, but most of the technical details went over his head. Instead, he found himself staring out the viewport, watching the stars blur together as they traveled. As the days passed, Ryan began to feel a strange connection to the artifact. It wasn't just a piece of alien technology. It felt alive, almost like it was waiting for something. Sometimes, he thought he heard whispers in the back of his mind, faint and indistinct, but always present. He didn't mention it to the others. They already had enough to worry about. Finally, they arrived at Zoreth. The planet was a barren wasteland, its surface covered in endless dunes of golden sand. A single outpost stood in the distance, surrounded by crumbling walls and solar panels that glinted in the harsh sunlight. This was where they would find Dr. Finch, and hopefully, answers. But as they landed and stepped onto the scorching sands, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that danger was lurking nearby. The artifact pulsed gently in his hands, as if warning him. Whatever waited for them here, it wouldn't be simple or safe. The heat hit them like a wall as soon as they stepped off Asterisk. The silver wisp Asterisk. Zoreth's sun blazed overhead, turning the golden sand into a sea of shimmering waves. Ryan squinted against the glare, his hand shielding his eyes as he clutched the artifact close to his chest. The outpost in the distance looked abandoned, its walls cracked and faded, but Ethan assured them Dr. Laura Finch was somewhere inside. "This place gives me the creeps," Megan muttered, adjusting her holster. She scanned the horizon, her sharp eyes catching every movement, or lack thereof. "Too quiet." "Quiet doesn't always mean safe," Ethan replied, leading the way across the dunes. His boots sank slightly into the soft sand with each step, leaving deep tracks behind him. "Stay alert." Ryan followed silently, his mind racing. He couldn't stop thinking about the artifact and the strange whispers he thought he heard. Were they real? Or was it just his imagination playing tricks on him after everything that had happened? Either way, the object felt heavier now, as if it carried more than just its physical weight. When they reached the outpost, the entrance was sealed by a rusted metal door. Ethan knocked firmly, calling out, "Dr. Finch, it's Ethan Drake. I need your help." For a moment, there was no response. Then, a small panel slid open near the top of the door, revealing a pair of wary eyes. A voice came from behind the thick barrier. "Ethan, is that really you?" "It's me," Ethan confirmed. "We don't have much time. Please, let us in." The door creaked open slowly, revealing a woman in her late 40s with short gray hair and glasses perched on her nose. Her lab coat was worn but clean, and she held a scanner in one hand. Dr. Laura Finch studied them carefully before stepping aside. "Come in quickly. You shouldn't be out here." Inside, the outpost was cooler but cluttered with equipment, books, and holographic displays showing complex diagrams. Finch gestured for them to sit while she locked the door behind them. "What brings you to this god-forsaken planet?" she asked, her tone sharp but not unkind. Ethan wasted no time. "This." He nodded toward Ryan, who placed the artifact on the table. Finch's eyes widened as she approached it, her scanner humming softly. "I've seen symbols like these before," she murmured, running her fingers over the glowing markings. "But never anything intact. Where did you find it?" "On the moon," Ryan said quietly. "It kind of found me." Finch raised an eyebrow, but didn't press further. Instead, she focused on the artifact, muttering to herself as she worked. "If my theories are correct, this is part of an ancient network designed to manipulate energy fields, but activating it could have catastrophic consequences." Megan crossed her arms. "Catastrophic how?" Finch hesitated. "Think of it like a key. Alone, it's harmless. But if connected to other pieces of the network, it could unlock unimaginable power or unleash chaos." Ryan swallowed hard. "Can we use it against the Tylothians?" Finch sighed, sitting back in her chair. "Possibly. But you'd need to locate the other artifacts first. And even then, controlling their combined energy would be nearly impossible without proper knowledge." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared outside. Red lights flashed through the cracks in the walls, and the ground trembled slightly. Finch cursed under her breath. "They're here." "Who's here?" Ryan demanded, panic rising in his chest. "The Tylothians," Ethan growled, grabbing his weapon. "They must have tracked us." Finch moved quickly, pulling up a map of the outpost on one of her screens. "There's a tunnel system beneath us. It leads to an old escape pod bay. If we hurry, we might make it out alive." Megan nodded, already heading for the hidden trapdoor Finch pointed out. "Let's move." As they descended into the tunnels, the sound of explosions echoed above them. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and the air grew thick with smoke. Ryan stumbled forward, clutching the artifact tightly. He could feel it pulsing again, stronger this time, as if urging him to act. At the end of the tunnel, they found the escape pods, a row of small battered capsules barely big enough for 2 people each. Finch programmed coordinates into one of them while Ethan and Megan kept watch. "You'll need to take the artifact and go," Finch said firmly, handing Ryan a data chip. "This contains everything I know about the network. Find the other pieces. Use them wisely." "What about you?" Ryan asked, his voice shaking. "I'll stay and buy you some time," Finch replied, her expression resolute. "Now go." Reluctantly, Ryan climbed into the pod with Megan. As the hatch sealed shut, he watched Finch disappear into the shadows, holding her ground against the approaching enemy. The pod launched with a jolt, shooting into the sky as the outpost collapsed behind them. The escape pod hurtled through the atmosphere, its metal frame rattling as it broke free from Zoreth's gravity. Inside, Ryan sat hunched over, clutching the artifact tightly. The data chip Dr. Finch had given him rested in his pocket, a small but heavy reminder of the trust she had placed in him. Megan piloted the pod with practiced ease, her face tense as she monitored the controls. Ethan was silent, his jaw clenched as he stared out the tiny viewport at the burning wreckage of the outpost below. "She didn't have to do that," Ryan said finally, breaking the silence. His voice was hoarse, filled with guilt and grief. "She stayed behind for us." Megan glanced back at him, her expression unreadable. She knew what she was doing. Finch wasn't the kind of person to run when others needed her. "She gave us a chance. Now we've got to make it count." Ryan nodded slowly, though the weight of responsibility pressed down on him harder than ever. He had never asked for this role, never wanted to be the one carrying humanity's hope. But here he was, holding an ancient relic that could either save or doom them all. Every choice felt like walking a tightrope over an endless abyss. Ethan leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Finch bought us time, but it won't last long. The Kylithians know we're onto something big. They'll chase us harder now. And where exactly are we supposed to go? Megan snapped, frustration creeping into her tone. We can't keep running forever. Sooner or later, they're going to catch up. Ryan looked at the artifact, its faint glow casting shadows across their faces. Maybe we don't have to keep running. Maybe we fight back. Megan raised an eyebrow. Fight back? With what? One artifact and a stolen escape pod. We've got more than that, Ryan replied, surprising even himself with the conviction in his voice. We've got Finch's research, we've got Ethan's knowledge, and we've got each other. If we can find the other pieces of this network, if we can figure out how to use them. It's not just about finding the artifacts, Ethan interrupted. It's about uniting the people who would stand with us. Humanity is scattered across the galaxy, divided and afraid. But if they see there's a chance, a real chance, to break free from the Empire, some of them will fight. Megan sighed, leaning back in her seat. You're talking about starting a rebellion. Do you have any idea how dangerous that is? The Kylothians don't mess around. They'll crush anyone who tries to rise against them. I know it's dangerous, Ryan admitted. But what's the alternative? Keep hiding until they find us. Until they destroy everything we care about. I'm tired of being scared. I'm tired of running. For a moment, no one spoke. The pod continued its journey, leaving Zoreth far behind. Outside, the stars glittered coldly, indifferent to the struggles of those beneath them. Finally, Ethan nodded. If we're going to do this, we need allies. People who believe in the cause, and people who can help us survive. There's someone, Megan said after a pause. Daniel Hayes. He's a governor on New Terra, one of the few colony leaders who hasn't rolled over for the Empire. If anyone can rally support, it's him. Then that's where we go next, Ryan said firmly. To New Terra. When they arrived, New Terra was bustling with activity. The planet's fertile fields stretched as far as the eye could see, dotted with farms and settlements. But the air carried an undercurrent of tension. Soldiers patrolled the streets, their uniforms marked with the insignia of the Silothian Empire. Despite the oppressive presence, the colonists moved with quiet determination, their eyes filled with a mix of fear and defiance. They found Daniel Hayes in the capital city, a tall man with graying hair and a commanding presence. He listened intently as Ryan explained their mission, studying the artifact and the data chip from Finch. When Ryan finished, Hayes leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. This changes everything, he said quietly. If what you say is true, then humanity has a fighting chance. But it won't be easy. The Empire will retaliate with everything they've got. We're ready, Ryan replied, meeting Hayes' gaze. We don't have a choice. Hayes nodded slowly. Then let's give them a war they'll never forget. As plans were made and alliances formed, Ryan felt a spark of hope ignite within him. For the first time, he realized he wasn't alone. Together, they might just stand a chance. The meeting with Daniel Hayes had gone better than Ryan expected. The governor of New Terra didn't waste time questioning or doubting them. Instead, he immediately began rallying support among the colonists. Within hours, word spread through the settlements, and people gathered in the town square to hear what Hayes had to say. Standing on a makeshift platform, Hayes addressed the crowd, his voice steady but passionate. For too long, we've lived under the boot of the Silothian Empire. They take our resources, enslave our people, and treat us like animals. But today, we have a chance to fight back. This man, Ryan Carter, has brought us something that could change everything. Ryan stood awkwardly beside Hayes, feeling out of place as hundreds of eyes turned toward him. He wasn't used to being the center of attention, especially not when so much depended on him. Megan gave him an encouraging nod from the edge of the platform, her arms crossed as she scanned the crowd for troublemakers. Hayes continued, holding up the artifact for everyone to see. This is no ordinary object. It's part of an ancient network capable of incredible power. With it, and with your courage, we can strike a blow against the Empire that they'll never forget." Cheers erupted from the crowd, though not everyone looked convinced. Some whispered nervously, while others simply stared at the glowing artifact with suspicion. Ryan noticed a group of colonists near the back who seemed particularly uneasy. One of them stepped forward, a woman named Samantha Cole, a former officer in the colonial militia. "This is madness," Samantha said loudly, her voice cutting through the cheers. "We're talking about taking on the entire Xylothian fleet with one relic. Even if it works, how do we know this won't destroy us instead?" Her words silenced the crowd, planting seeds of doubt. Ryan felt a knot tighten in his stomach. She wasn't wrong. The artifact was unpredictable, and using it came with risks. But they had no other choice. "We don't know for sure," Ryan admitted, stepping closer to the edge of the platform. "But I do know this. Running won't save us. Hiding won't save us. If we want a future for ourselves, for our families, we have to try. Yes, it's dangerous. Yes, it might cost us everything. But doing nothing guarantees we lose anyway." Samantha frowned, but didn't argue further. Instead, she turned and walked away, followed by a few others who shared her doubts. Ryan watched them go, feeling a pang of guilt. He hated causing division, but he also knew that unity wouldn't come easily, not when fear and uncertainty ran so deep. Despite the setback, many stayed behind, eager to join the cause. Over the next few days, preparations moved quickly. Ethan worked tirelessly with a team of engineers to decode more of the artifact's secrets, while Megan trained volunteers in basic combat tactics. Hayes coordinated logistics, gathering supplies and organizing defenses around key locations. As the rebellion grew stronger, Ryan found himself struggling with the weight of leadership. People looked to him for answers, for guidance, but he often felt lost himself. Late one night, after another long day of meetings and planning, he sat alone in a quiet corner of the command center, staring at the artifact. "You okay?" Megan asked, joining him with 2 cups of steaming tea. She handed one to him before sitting down. "I don't know," Ryan admitted, rubbing his temples. "Everyone keeps looking at me like I have all the answers, like I'm some kind of hero. But I'm just me." Megan smiled faintly. "You're doing better than you think. You've given these people hope. And sometimes that's enough." Before Ryan could respond, alarms blared throughout the base. Red lights flashed as voices shouted orders over the comm system. Megan jumped to her feet, pulling out her blaster. "What's happening?" Ethan burst into the room, his face pale. "Xylothian ships. They're here." Chaos erupted as soldiers scrambled to their posts. From the command center, Ryan watched screens displaying the enemy fleet descending upon New Terra. Their sleek warships cut through the atmosphere like predators hunting prey. "We're not ready for this," Samantha said bitterly, appearing at the doorway. Her expression softened slightly when she saw Ryan gripping the artifact. "But maybe you are." Ryan took a deep breath, realizing there was no turning back now. Whatever happened next, humanity's fate rested in his hands, and in the strange, glowing object he held tightly against his chest. The Xylothian ships descended like a storm, their massive forms blotting out the sky. Laser fire rained down on the colony, shattering buildings and scattering terrified colonists. The air was filled with smoke, and screams as explosions lit up the horizon. Ryan stood frozen for a moment, clutching the artifact tightly in his hands. This was it, the moment everything would change. "Ryan," Megan shouted, grabbing his arm. "We need to move. Now." Snapping out of his daze, Ryan followed her to the command center, where Hayes and Ethan were already coordinating defenses. Volunteers ran past them, carrying weapons and supplies, their faces pale but determined. Outside, the sound of battle grew louder. Blaster shots, collapsing structures, and the roar of starfighters streaking through the air. "We can't hold them off forever," Hayes said grimly, studying the screens showing the enemy fleet. "But we can buy ourselves time." Ethan nodded, pulling up a holographic map of the area. If we activate the artifact now, we might be able to disable some of their ships, or at least slow them down. Ryan hesitated. What about the risks? Finch warned us this thing could spiral out of control. There's no other choice, Ethan replied, his voice firm. If we don't use it now, there won't be a later. Megan placed a hand on Ryan's shoulder. You've got this. Trust yourself. Taking a deep breath, Ryan stepped forward. The artifact pulsed in his hands, its glow growing brighter as if responding to his resolve. He closed his eyes, focusing on the strange energy coursing through him. For a moment, he felt connected to something vast and ancient, a force beyond comprehension. Then, with a surge of determination, he activated it. A shockwave rippled outward from the artifact, invisible but powerful. On the screens, several Xylothian ships faltered mid-flight, their systems failing as the wave passed over them. Others exploded outright, caught in the artifact's destructive field. Cheers erupted from the colonists watching the battle unfold, hope reigniting in their hearts. But the victory came at a cost. The ground beneath them trembled violently as the artifact's energy destabilized the surrounding area. Buildings cracked, power lines sparked, and the very air seemed to hum with tension. Ryan staggered back, the artifact slipping from his grasp as pain shot through his body. It felt like the object was draining him, feeding off his strength to sustain its power. Turn it off, Megan yelled, rushing to his side. I can't, Ryan gasped, sweat dripping down his face. It's not listening. Ethan grabbed the artifact, trying to shut it down manually, but nothing worked. We're losing control, he shouted. Everyone evacuate the area. Hayes barked orders into the comm system, directing people to safe zones while Megan helped Ryan to his feet. Together, they stumbled toward the nearest bunker, dodging falling debris and panicked colonists. Behind them, the artifact continued to pulse wildly, its light growing almost blinding. As they reached the bunker, Samantha appeared, her expression conflicted. I thought you'd get us all killed, she admitted, helping Megan support Ryan. But maybe I was wrong. Before Ryan could respond, a deafening boom echoed across the battlefield. The artifact unleashed one final burst of energy, obliterating the remaining Xylothian ships in the sky. When the light faded, silence fell over New Terra, a fragile, eerie calm. Ryan collapsed onto the ground, exhausted but alive. The artifact lay dark and inert beside him, its power seemingly spent. Ethan knelt next to it, shaking his head. That was too close. We got lucky this time. Hayes entered the bunker moments later, his face streaked with dirt and ash. We held them off, he said, his voice heavy with relief. But this isn't over. The Empire will send reinforcements, and next time, they'll come prepared. Ryan looked at the artifact, then at the faces of those around him. They had survived, but the cost had been high. Homes were destroyed, lives lost. And yet, despite everything, humanity had fought back and won. For now, that was enough. But Ryan knew the real battle was just beginning. The aftermath of the battle left New Terra scared but alive. Smoke curled into the sky, and the air smelled of burnt metal and ash. The colonists worked tirelessly to clean up the wreckage, their movements weary but purposeful. Ryan sat on a pile of rubble near the edge of the settlement, staring at the artifact lying at his feet. Its glow had faded completely, leaving it cold and lifeless. For the first time since finding it, Ryan felt unsure of what to do next. Megan approached him quietly, sitting down beside him. You did good out there, she said, her tone softer than usual. People are alive because of you. Ryan shook his head. I don't know if I did anything right. Look at this place. It's ruined. And how many people died today? Because of me. It wasn't just you, Megan replied firmly. We all chose to fight. You gave us a chance, and that's more than anyone else could have done. Ethan joined them a moment later, holding a data pad filled with readings from the artifact. It drained itself completely during the activation, he explained. Whatever power it had is gone. For now. But using it like that, it destabilized the area. We can't stay here. Where do we go? Ryan asked, his voice hollow. To the stars, Ethan said simply. Spread the word. Tell others about what happened here. If humanity wants to survive, we need to unite, and fast. Hayes appeared behind them, his face lined with exhaustion but determination. The Empire will be back, stronger than before. But they'll find us ready. Every colony, every ship, every human, we'll stand together. Ryan nodded slowly, though doubt lingered in his mind. He knew Hayes was right. Running wouldn't solve anything. But the thought of facing the Silothians again, of risking everything once more, felt overwhelming. As the days passed, plans were made. Survivors gathered supplies, repaired ships, and prepared to scatter across the galaxy. Ryan recorded a message to broadcast to all human settlements, a warning and a call to action. This is Ryan Carter, he began, his voice steady despite the weight of his words. If you're hearing this, then you already know the Empire is coming. They'll stop at nothing to crush us, but we won't let them win. Run if you have to, fight if you can, but don't give up. Humanity's future depends on all of us. The message was sent out, carried by runners and encrypted signals to avoid detection. Ships launched one by one, disappearing into the vastness of space. Ryan watched from the cockpit of Asterisk, the silver-whisked Asterisk, as Megan piloted them away from Nuterra, leaving behind the ruins of their hard-fought victory. For weeks, they traveled in silence, searching for safe havens and rallying support wherever they went. News of the rebellion spread quickly, igniting sparks of resistance across human space. People who had once lived in fear now dared to hope and to act. But Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger loomed ahead. The artifact had awakened something ancient, something powerful. Its whispers still echoed faintly in his mind, urging him toward answers he didn't yet understand. Whatever force lay behind the network, it wasn't finished with him, or with humanity. One night, as they drifted through the emptiness of space, Ryan stood alone in the cargo hold, staring at the artifact. It remained dark, but he could feel its presence, like a heartbeat waiting to awaken. He didn't know what the future held, or whether humanity would prevail against the Empire. All he knew was that survival wasn't enough. Not anymore. To truly live, they would have to fight, not just for freedom, but for a place among the stars. And so, with the artifact resting silently at his side, Ryan whispered two simple words into the void. Run and fight.